All right, we are back in the workshop today. This is Millennium Workshop. My name's Rex, and today we're going to be going over a DIY of how to make a stranger helmet. So sit back, relax, and let's have some fun.
I don't know about you, but I could sit there and watch a time lapse of a print being grown any day of the week, all day long. But now we're into our favorite part, which is ripping off those tree supports. Some people love them, some people hate them. It's kind of therapeutic in my opinion. I love taking a fresh print and, destroying the little tree supports. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to be fusing the two halves of the dome together. I'm using an SA glue with a spray activator. What this activator is going to be doing is ensuring that it dries faster. So I'm not sitting and waiting, using any tape. I'm going to do one side, then the next. Then I'm going in and I'm going to use a soldering iron over the seam. You're going to notice in the next frame that I'm kind of massaging those two conjoined parts together. The helmet has a lot of texture, so you're going to be creating a lot of texture with the soldering iron, but the most important thing is not to push too hard, to really just kind of massage those two pieces together. Take your time on this step, because the smoother you get this seam while you're doing this step, the less work you're going to have to do in post-process of like sanding, Bondo filling, and everything. So you're really going to be saving yourself a lot of time by taking just a little bit more time on this step. Now on the inside of the helmet, I'm going to take some spare filament that came off of a roll that I didn't quite use all of it, or I decided not to use all of it. Take that, roll it up, get it off the spool, and save those. I got them hanging up on my desk, and they make life so much easier. So I'm going to melt some of this extra filament into the inside of the dome just to give it a little bit more strength and durability, so that I don't have to worry about this coming apart in the future. Now this is the step where everyone has been reaching out to me, wanting to know how did I keep the finite texture of the file. Do not overthink this step. Start out with 120, sand it. You're going to be focusing on most of the high spots because that's all you're going to be able to get to. Then I'm going to go into 220 grit, just to get those high spots that we just hit with 120 just a little bit smoother. But this helmet's not a smooth helmet. It's going to be rough and rugged, and we're going to be adding tons of texture coming up. So don't be freaked out that you can't do this part. This is just a part to really just get you prepared for the next few steps. Now I'm going to be hitting it with some filler primer to get into the deep crevices of where I couldn't get my sander, to get to those fine small pieces of layer lines. But then this next step is truly my favorite. If you've been watching anything that I've ever been making or following along, you will know that Duplicolor truck bed liner is and will always be one of my favorite things to use. I'm going to mist this entire helmet, and then what I'm going to do is in certain spots I'm just going to build up and hit it just a little bit heavy There's no rhyme or reason. It's really random. It's in the moment. How you feel. Keep on moving. This is going to create a nice metal feel, in my opinion, of some rusty metal. Since that's what the helmet looks like. I mean, it looks kind of rusted. So just really just have some fun with this step. Don't freak out, because at the end, once you blend all the colors that we're about to talk about, it's going to look fantastic. So after that, once that is dried, I like to hit it with a base black primer. You can use any type of primer. You can go back over it with some filler primer if you want. I've had in the past some weird reactions with the truck bed liner if I did not prime it with a primer base before going into like a final paint. Now you might not have that issue. I had that issue, so I found the workaround, which was just priming it. You know, priming never really hurts. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having another layer of paint on it. You might see some layer lines and you might need to hit it with some more truck bed liner. So the first color we're going to be going down with is a dark walnut. This color is brown. It's very dark. It almost looks black. One of my buddies, Zach, he recommended me to use this paint, and I was absolutely jacked on the color. So I'm definitely going to be using this color on a lot of other projects in the future, just because it just comes out so good. It'd be great for weathering like lightsabers or any other type of project you'll be working on where you need some like dark shadows or anything like that. But once we hit this with some other colors, we're going to really build this up, and it won't look as brown if you think it's looking too brown. So now I'm going to be lightly going over this in kind of some random spots with some graphite powder. The reason why we're going to use some graphite powder is, for some reason, graphite powder brings out a really good metal look. So going over the brown, the dark black brown with some graphite powder just really kind of sells it as some real metal, and like it's already, you know, aged a little bit. So that's why you're just going to see me just kind of hitting at random. There's no rhyme or reason to this step either. I mean, when it comes to this entire helmet, there's no like set ways that you have to do it. So really get in, have some fun, and, you know, don't be worried about too much of, you know, if it's not perfect, you know, it's not going to look good, because I think the final outcome's really what's going to pop. Now I'm going to hit it with some copper hammered finish. Again, random. Some heavy spots, you know, where a lot of the battle damage is. That's where it kind of looks like in the show where you really see that color pop. Now I'm going to go in with a silver metallic paint marker. You can do this, you could have done this prior to, you could have painted the entire helmets, you know, silver first and laid down some latex and peeled it all off at the very end. But I just think sometimes, you know, going the simple route sometimes makes it look a little bit better. We're also going to be going over this with some other different types of silvers and some golds. So we're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to build these colors up. It's not just one color, move on. But you're just going to see I'm just really hitting the high spots with this silver. Now it's into the silver leaf rub and buff. You can really get some good, basically what I was trying to get is, yes, you have your high damage spot, but it's kind of scuffed into the rest of the paint, and rub and buff really gets you to that point where it's kind of poking through. It's not so, you know, a prominent scratch. It's kind of like a faded scratch. That's the look I was going for. You know, this is your helmet. This is your project. Do what you think is right. This is just a nice little guide for you. Now I'm going to hit it with some gold leaf. You're probably thinking, why gold? Gold on top of the browns and the gold and the copper. It kind of comes out more copper tone, but gives it that shiny look. what I'm doing is kind of just dry brushing it on in random patterns, creating like a scratch look with it, and also just kind of like smacking the helmet with it. Next, we're going to move into a lamp black oil paint. This is personally one of my favorite ways to do any type of weathering because you have a lot of control with the color. You can just wipe it off, and because it does take longer to dry, so you don't have to like rush. If you're panicking because you can't get it up, just keep kind of massaging that paint out of, the rest of the paint. And don't forget to, you can always do clear coats in between any of these steps. It's not going to hurt. Um, I did a few clear coats in between the graphite powder and the paints. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start working on the actual teeth. So I sanded those, I primed those with some filler primer, and then I went into it with a base black primer. Um, I always hit any type of part with a black primer before I move into a silver or a metallic. What I'm using here is, I couldn't show you the can because the can has tons of overspray on it and there was just no way to do it. But this is a Rust-Oleum metallic aluminum. Personally, it's one of my favorites for metal because once you add that lamp black oil paint, and that's what we're going to be doing right now, we're getting into it. I feel like it looks a little bit more like, weathered metal instead of just like a silver spray paint. Um, but when you go into the lamp black, again, you can really like work it off and, create weathered spots. And it just gives it that beautiful age. So I'm just really hitting the deep crevices. I'm trying not to get much on the actual teeth, but in between the teeth, because when we go to wipe this oil paint off, it's going to kind of go everywhere. So you're going to get some on the teeth, and you're just going to kind of massage it off with a paper towel. When you first switch over to using a oil-based paint, you might be freaked out a little bit just because of the fact of, you're used to using acrylics and they dry so fast, and, you're going to get some on the teeth and you're going to freak out like, oh, I got to wipe it off now. No, finish everything laying down, where you want this to be. And before you know it, you're gonna be able to work it off. It's gonna be okay. I know the first time I ever used it, I got it on parts where I didn't want any paint on it at all. I wanted it to stay crisp, and I like panicked for a second, and then I remembered that it does take so long to dry. But like even on the inside, you're gonna be able to wipe away, um, and really have it pop all those details. Now it's time to move on to the jaw. So the jaw was all the same weathering, all the same painting that we've done prior to. The center piece, all I did was sprayed it with truck bed liner, and then I went with that dark maple and um, then hit it with graphite powder and cleared it. I did not go in with any copper tones because I wanted there to be like a drastic, color difference from the jaw to the center piece of the jaw. Because I feel like when I watched the show, I noticed that. And, when it comes to making things, it's all about your interpretation, how you saw it, how we see it. Um, Anything and everything can, have your own spin to it. So a lot of times that's, usually what I'm focused on. But I'm using the same glue, the same, activator to get this all ready to go. And then we're going to be ready for install. All right, now it's time to cut our visor. I'm using some tin snips. This is a Hobart face shield, so using scissors is a little bit harder to use. It can be done, but if you can get some of these snips, it'll definitely make life a little bit easier. You're going to notice that I'm recycling some raft that came off of one of my 3D prints. We're going to actually use these for visor clips. So it's going to be an easy way to glue down your visor so it stays in place. I'm using hot glue for this. Um, be careful. Last time I put a visor in, burnt myself pretty good. That hot glue is not scared to come back and bite you. All right, we got the visor in. Now let's take a look. Man, that looks good. Now it's time to glue the upper teeth to the top of the helmet. I'm using just a basic, CA glue with an activator. Makes life easier. I know you keep hearing me say that, but it really truly does. So if you don't have any, you should definitely get some. And then after this step, we're gonna be almost done. Just having to install the lower jaw. This truly is the last step, is getting that jaw lined up. What I do is I put it in and kind of close that jaw down, and man, does that look good.
All right, if you made it to the end, you should have your very own stranger helmet. I think we did a pretty good job on this one. If you got any questions, drop them in the chat. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.